You ever stop and think, what does it actually mean to live an excellent life? I mean, really live it. It's this huge question, right? And it turns out we've been wrestling with it for literally thousands of years. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful answer that the ancient Greeks came up with. Yeah, what does it mean to live a good life? We all ask ourselves that at some point. Is it about being happy, making a lot of money, finding your purpose? It's one of those deep, fundamental human questions. And let me tell you, the search for an answer goes way, way back. So, long before we had self-help books, podcasts, or life coaches telling us how to live, the ancient Greeks were already on it. They were wrestling with this exact same idea. And they didn't just have some complicated philosophical answer, they had one single powerful word for it. And that word is arete. Now, on the surface, you could just translate it as excellence. Simple enough. But when you really dig in, it's so much richer than that. It's about virtue, yeah, but it's really about the act of living up to your absolute full potential, fulfilling your purpose, whatever that might be. Okay, so let's go back to its earliest form. Think Homeric times, the age of heroes like Achilles and Odysseus. Back then, Arete was all about effectiveness. It was practical. For a warrior like Achilles, Arete was his strength and bravery in battle. But for someone like Odysseus' wife, Penelope, her Arete was her wit, her cunning, her ability to outsmart all those guys trying to take over. You see, it was about using everything you had, strength, brains, courage, to get real results in the world. That, things change. As Greek society started to evolve, moving from these scattered warring tribes to big, complex city-states, their idea of excellence started to change too. The whole focus began to shift, away from the battlefield and into the public square. It wasn't just about being a great hero anymore. It was about being a great citizen. And you can see that shift so clearly right here. The philosophers, guys like Plato and Aristotle, they get a hold of this idea and they start arguing that true arete, well, it's not just about what you can do on the outside. It's about your internal moral character. The ideal person wasn't just the strongest warrior anymore. It was the good citizen, someone who had virtues like justice and self-restraint. There's this fantastic story that totally captures this choice. Imagine this, a young Heracles, yep, that Heracles, is at a crossroads. Two figures appear. One is named Kakya, which basically means vice or badness, and she offers him a life of total ease, wealth, pleasure, the easy road. But then the other figure appears. Her name is Arete, and she offers him a life of struggle, a hard road, fighting against evil, but one that leads to real, lasting glory. And guess which path he chose? Of course, he chose Arete. So this is where it gets really interesting, because Aristotle comes along and turns this philosophical idea into something, well, practical, a system you could actually use. He argued that achieving arete, this excellence, wasn't about being some kind of perfect saint. Nope. It was about finding the perfect balance in everything we do and feel. He called it the doctrine of the mean. Okay, let's make this super clear with an example everyone gets: courage. So for Aristotle, courage isn't just not being scared. It's the golden mean that sits perfectly between two extremes, two vices. On one end, you've got the deficiency, cowardice, running from everything. On the other end, you've got the excess, recklessness, just charging into danger without thinking. And right there, in the sweet spot in the middle, that's courage, the perfect rational balance. All right, so what's the point of all this? Why try to find this balance? For Aristotle, the ultimate goal of pursuing arete wasn't just to be happy. It was to achieve something he called eudaimonia. Now, a lot of people translate that as happiness, but that doesn't really capture it. A much better word is flourishing. It's this state of living well and doing well, basically the absolute peak of a human life. Okay, that's a lot of philosophy. Let's bring this down from the clouds for a second. How does this stuff actually work in real life? Let's take a look at one specific virtue that is just as important today as it was thousands of years ago in Athens. Let's talk about compassion. I love this one because the word itself tells you so much. It comes from Latin, and it literally means to suffer with someone. See, it's not just feeling sorry for someone, that's pity. Compassion is deeper. It's really feeling and understanding another person's pain, and then, and this is the key part, having a real desire to help them. And what's absolutely amazing to me is just how universal this idea is. This principle of compassion, it's the beating heart of the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You find some version of that idea in pretty much every major religion and philosophical tradition on the planet. It's like it's hardwired into our shared human blueprint for how to live together. So, okay, compassion feels pretty timeless, right? But here's a twist. Our ideas about what even counts as a virtue, they can change a lot. To see just how much, let's do a quick little deep dive into the history of one single word, shrewd. So today, if I call someone shrewd, you probably think it's a compliment, right? A shrewd business person is smart, they've got sharp judgment, they're astute. It almost feels like a modern-day virtue, especially in the business world. But if you go back to where the word came from, it tells a totally different story. In Middle English, shrewd actually came from the word shrew, which meant an evil, wicked person. The word literally meant malicious or evil in nature. Isn't that wild? It's the perfect reminder that our ideas of what's good or excellent can totally flip over time. They are not set in stone. And that brings us right up to the modern day, because that ancient Greek idea we talked about, eudaimonia, that concept of human flourishing, it's making a massive comeback. But here's the kicker. It's not happening in philosophy departments. It's happening in science, specifically in the field of psychology. So let's just quickly recap Aristotle's blueprint for eudaimonia, right? It's the ultimate goal in life. You get there by cultivating virtues, by living a life full of purpose and meaning. It's all about becoming the best possible version of yourself, okay? Got that? Hold that thought? Okay, now look at this. This is the modern psychological definition of flourishing, an optimal range of human functioning, high emotional well-being, high psychological well-being, which includes purpose, growth, and mastery, high social well-being. I mean, come on. It's almost a point-for-point echo of Aristotle's ideas. It's like we've rediscovered this ancient wisdom, but this time through the lens of modern science. It's just stunning. But here's the reality check. As great as this sounds, actually achieving it is another story. According to some of the key research in this area, only about 18% of adults in America are truly flourishing. 18%. That means the vast majority of people are either languishing or just sort of moderately healthy, maybe living lives that feel a little bit hollow, a little bit empty. It gets even more specific. Researchers have actually tried to put a number on this state of flourishing. A psychologist named Barbara Fredrickson came up with what she calls the positivity ratio. And what her team found was that people who are flourishing tend to experience about 4.3 positive emotions, things like joy, gratitude, awe, for every single negative emotion they feel. It's this incredibly modern scientific metric for a really ancient idea. So, okay, we've gone on this big journey from ancient Greece to modern psychology labs. What does it all mean for us, for you and me, right now? How do we actually take up this quest for excellence in our own lives? And this, I think, is the most important takeaway of all. Arete, or flourishing, isn't some lofty, out-of-reach goal that only heroes can achieve. Aristotle was super clear about this. He said we build virtues by doing virtuous things. It's a practice. You become brave by acting bravely, even when you're scared. You become compassionate by showing compassion. Excellence isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a daily practice. It's really just the sum of our good habits. So we end up right back where we started, with that very first idea from the heroic age, using all your faculties. Every single one of us has our own unique mix of strength, bravery, and wit. So the timeless question, it isn't just, what does it mean to live a good life? The real question is for you. How are you going to use what you've got to achieve your own unique arete?